Evening, everybody. Today is May the 21st, 2020. It is now 6:05 p.m. Sorry for the brief delay. Today, we're conducting a hearing pursuant to sections 101, 207, 305, 2801A of the Education Law, and sections 32 of Chapter 39 of the laws of 2019. We're also here because of section 155.17 of the regulations of the Commissioner of Education, which was amended in 2019 and 2020 to require that every school from 2019 to 2020 and every year thereafter, that schools define the areas of responsibility for school personnel, security personnel, and law enforcement in response to student misconduct that violates a school district's code of conduct. A school district or a charter school that employs or contracts with or otherwise retains law enforcement or public or private security personnel, including school resource officers, shall establish a written contract or memorandum of understanding that is developed with stakeholders input, including but not limited to parents, students, school administrators, teachers, collective bargaining units, parent and student organizations, and community members, as well as probation officers, prosecutors, defense counsels, and courts that are familiar with school districts. Such written contracts or memorandum of understanding shall define the relationship between a school district or charter school, school personnel and students, visitors, law enforcement, and public or private security personnel. Such contract or memorandum of understanding shall be consistent with the code of conduct, define law enforcement or security personnel's rules, responsibilities, and involvement within a school, and clearly delegate the role of school discipline to school administration. Such written contracts or memorandums of understanding shall be incorporated into and published as part of the district's safety plan, and the SRO contracts are considered a part of the district-wide safety plans. Each board of education shall take that into account. The chancellor and other governing bodies shall make each district-wide safety plan available for public comment at least 30 days prior to its adoption. School district safety plans may be adopted by the school board only after at least one public hearing that provides participation of school personnel, parents, students, and other interested parties. This indeed, ladies and gentlemen, is why we are here today. This public hearing is being conducted consistent with the state laws and regulations that I just described. Now I would ask the clerk to identify the list of speakers that have signed up to speak tonight. There are 19 such speakers. I should also note, for the public's consideration, is that my colleagues and I also received written comments, which we will review as part of this hearing. Madam Clerk, you can call out the list of speakers.
Good evening, everyone. As President White mentioned, we have 19 speakers. Our first speaker is Tali Beckwith-Cohen. Tali, you have 3 minutes. Thank you for joining us this evening.
Hi, my name is Tali Beckwith-Cohen, and as a student in the RCSD, I am asking you to keep SROs out of schools. Having police in schools contributes to the school-to-prison pipeline and the systematic criminalization of urban youth. This can be proven statistically. I am not trying to say that individual SROs are bad people or that they're out to get students, but the sad truth is, and what I have witnessed firsthand, is that often students who feel defensive are perceived as violent. Students who are in distress are perceived as aggressive, and students who need social and emotional health are perceived as a threat. Having cops in schools makes it so much easier for this misunderstanding to result in an arrest or in law enforcement intervention. We've seen time and time again how SROs become the first or second line of defense instead of what they should be, which is a last resort. Taking cops out of school does not mean that police can never be involved in school matters. It just means that there is one degree of separation that can prevent a student who needs help from becoming a student in handcuffs. I would also like to address the fact that we're told that SROs keep us safe, but it's unclear what they keep us safe from. We're told that they're here to protect us from school shooters, but if that's the case, why are they only in city schools when all the mass shootings we've seen have taken place in suburbs? We're told that they prevent weapons from being carried into schools, but in a study done, it concluded that there's only a 0.1% increase in arrest rates relating to weapon charges between schools with or without SROs. And we're told that they break up fights, but all the fights I have witnessed have been broken up by the people in closest proximity, which is almost always an SSO, an administrator, or a teacher. It's unclear why we need SROs, and couldn't the money we spend on them be better spent on counselors, social workers, and special ed teachers, the people our students so desperately need, and the staff who can actually prevent these encounters? Please show us that you will prioritize our social and emotional health over your ability to police us. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Tali. We appreciate your time. Our next speaker is Sarah Adams, and Sarah is a student. Welcome, Sarah. You have 3 minutes.
Hi, my name is Sarah Adams. I'm a student at East High School. The first thing I want to talk about is the SRO survey that was put out back when we were still in school. This survey was asking questions like, do we feel safe with our SRO? Do we trust our SRO? And that information is inaccurate, because when I was asking students what they put for that, they were telling me they put yes, yes, yes. And I told them, well, do you know that that's the police that they're talking about? And they were like, no, I thought that was the security guard. And if that was the case, I would have put no for my answers, which goes to show that that information can't be used when making decisions like this, because it's not completely accurate. The next thing I want to talk about is, at least at my school, the SRO isn't around when I feel he needs to be the most, which is in the morning, because that's when things like fights can happen. That's also when students would try to sneak in weapons or drugs or anything like that. And I've seen those things happen, and my security guards handle that perfectly fine, which goes to show that we don't need the SROs and that the SSOs can handle those problems. The last thing I want to say is that I never see my SRO anyways, at least at East. Only time I see him is at the end of the day, escorting the buses and stuff like that. So I feel like if we were to cut them out, it wouldn't even make a difference. It wouldn't even change anything at East, because I don't see him anyways. It would be good though, because we could save social workers with that money, which are very important and are very active in my building. That's really all I want to say.
Thank you very much, Sarah. Our next speaker is Mary Callahan. Mary, you have 3 minutes. Thank you for joining us this evening.
Thanks. Am I right? Am I good? Can you hear me?
I can hear you, but I can't see you. Can you?
Okay. Yeah, hold on. Oh shoot, I'm sorry. Now can you see me?
Now I can see you. You have 3
I'm sorry. Hello, my name is Mary Callahan. I'm the parent of a second grader who attends School 58, as well as a teacher in Greece and a chair on the Citizen Action Education Committee. The bottom line is that we don't need police in schools. If we're concerned about safety, we need mental health staff, services, and programs. When students are in crisis, they need support, not punishment. Police are not equipped to teach restorative practices, conflict resolution, or self-management. I'm sorry, but some of them can't even practice that themselves. And they aren't trauma-informed the way social workers, counselors, and teachers are. In looking over the goals of this partnership and the MOU, it is apparent that police officers don't need to be employed in the schools to achieve them. Programs and connections listed don't require that. And if officers want to be positive role models and change youth perception of them, they can be conscious of the way they interact with the communities they serve. If that care isn't taken in all settings, then what is the point? The RPD can hold officers who abuse their power accountable rather than fight so hard to prevent the independent review of the Police Accountability Board. Listen to the students themselves when they tell you that police presence makes them feel criminalized, not safe. Study after study, year after year, shows that police presence in schools has a direct correlation to the school to prison pipeline and its disproportionate targeting of Black and brown students. When are we as a society going to learn that the status quo is not effective and that we need to start investing in what is? You can do that right now by removing SROs and putting any money saved towards mental health staff programs and services. That funding has never been right-sized. We have never had enough of it. And we're gonna need that more than ever in the midst and aftermath of this pandemic. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Our next speaker is Abbie Felton. Abbie. Is Abbie with us? Hi, Abbie, welcome. You have 3 minutes. Please unmute yourself, Abbie.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I'm a senior at School of the Arts. We need SROs out of schools. In a place where students are supposed to feel the safest, our students are feeling scared because there are police officers in our schools. SROs are only in city schools, not suburban schools. Why are schools with primarily Black and brown students being targeted? Having SROs in our schools contributes to systematic racism and the false narrative that people of color are violent and need to be arrested in order for the teachers to feel safe. Why are we defending the teachers' safety instead of the very students who need the most love and support? We should be investing in social workers and support networks for our students. We need to be replacing the SROs and arrests with support networks for our students.
Thank you very much, Abbie. Our next speaker is Jessica Nordquist. Jessica, welcome. You have 3 minutes.
Okay. Hi, can you see me? Okay. 1 second, let me get my thing up here. I just want to say, as a parent in this district, I want us to truly look at how we define what security looks like. Does it look like a police car and police person welcome you at the door every day? Or does it look like a welcoming community built through collaboration and connection? For my child, it is definitely the latter. If we were to invest our money in the programs and people who build true, authentic support and security rather than a false sense of security through a badge, we would see stronger and safer school buildings where parents and students feel like they belong. Please consider eliminating SROs from buildings. Invest that money in SSOs, training them in restorative work. They do amazing things building relationships at my son's school, and I've seen it in schools across the district. Please consider, investing it in social workers, counselors, mental health support. The SEL needs of students will be beyond need when we come back from all of this. I don't want to have to explain again to my children or my children who will be coming into the district or in the district already why their school has a police officer, but their suburban peers do not. That in itself tells the story of how we see our children. So I implore you to give a different vision. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Our next speaker is Moses Robinson. Moses, you have 3 minutes. Moses?
Hello?
We can hear you, but we cannot see you. Please come on screen.
All right. How's that?
3 minutes. Thank you.
Okay. Yeah. All right. Can you hear me and see me?
Yes, you may begin.
Okay. Good evening, board members. I want to congratulate Dr. Leslie Myers for becoming our next superintendent. I'm Officer Robinson of Rochester Police Department. Currently, I'm a crime prevention officer, but back in 1996, I was selected as a school resource officer in partnership with the Rochester Police Department and the Rochester City School District. For 17 years, I served in the capacity as a school resource officer, building relationships with community and school staff. While as a school resource officer, I became a national speaker for both on school and community safety. In February 11th, 2013, I was selected to speak at the supportive school discipline for the prison to school pipeline. And back in 2015, I was selected as a school resource officer to attend the White House meeting on developing school resource officers, policies, and curriculums to deal with girls of color. I am a consultant with several other different organizations through the Department of Justice, but as Dr. Myers said earlier this week, this is not about me. The Rochester City School District, the Rochester Police Department, and the City of Rochester, New York have a shared common belief, and that's in school safety. To ensure the continuation of these school safety, the school resource officers, school leaderships, and teachers and students working in partnership share a unique challenge to deal with the threats of school violence and averting school violence on school campuses. To mitigate these risks and avert school violence, training for school leadership, including school safety officers and resource officers, is imperative. Specialized training with school resource officers who are the first responders to school violence is absolutely imperative, and it ensures safety of students and parents and staff. SROs help avert countless acts of violence, intended acts of violence on school campus, and it's also they've built positive relationships. They have established trust with students and parents and partners overall. Keeping schools safe is our mission. Mitigating violence towards teachers and students and staff is imperative. But also keeping in mind, how do we respond and recover from violence as a partnership is very important. I want to thank you for this honor of speaking, but I also want to thank all the board members. I look forward to speaking to you and building trust and establishing our partnership to stop violence in the communities or even in the schools.
Thank you very much. Our next speaker is Beth Laird. Beth, you have 3 minutes. Thank you for joining us.
Hello, good evening. My name is Beth Laird. I'm a sergeant with the Rochester Police Department, currently in charge of the school resource officers. Prior to being a police officer, I worked at Mary Carriola Children's Center. The job of a school resource officer is hard to quantify. Beyond keeping the schools safe, the SROs help mediate issues with students, provide mentorship, and present in classrooms about career development and police community issues. Having an SRO in the school gives students a chance to have open and frank conversations about difficult topics. I would much rather a student's first experience with a police officer be a positive encounter that started in school where they felt safe, rather than an encounter at a crime scene, traffic stop, or motor vehicle accident where a young person is scared and likely to respond out of fear. The SRO in a school provides a direct link to the Rochester Police Department. Several times over the last few years, social media posts have caused panic and fear amongst school communities. There have been many other posts that were able to be identified, addressed, and mediated before panic and fear could set in. This was the result of having an SRO working directly with school staff. Other SROs have specialized training in crisis intervention and have received implicit bias training. Rochester is a community that strives for better relationships between police and civilians. What better way to improve the police department than to have our brilliant, compassionate minority students within our district become police officers and serve our community? SROs tell our students about the positive aspects of police work and what it's like to serve with pride. There is much talk of the school to prison pipeline. School resource officers are more likely to close a case by diversion, if appropriate, than to make an arrest. Our unit runs a diversion program in collaboration with Monroe County Probation, and the SROs also work closely with teen court. SROs are able to look at a situation in its totality, including motives, prior incidents, and future potential. A patrol officer coming off the street will only know what is told to him or her at the time, limiting the officer's options. Working in the Rochester City Schools has truly been the most fulfilling part of my 23 years of policing. Thank you for your time.
Thank you very much. Our next speaker is Mike Santana. Welcome, Mike. You have 3 minutes.
Okay, thank you. My name is Michael Santana. I've been a police officer for 25 years and 17 years as an SRO. My previous assignments as an SRO were at Dr. Freddie Thomas, Frederick Douglass, School of the Arts, Wilson Commencement, and currently assigned to World of Inquiry. First of all, thank you for the opportunity to be able to share a few words with regards to the SRO program and its impact on our city youth. So as a graduate of Ben Franklin and of a minority background, I totally understand most struggles that our city youth face from making wise choices that would impact their lives either in a positive or negative way. And I also understand that in these challenging times, it is so important for me as an SRO to build relationships during the school year, regardless of being at a high-performing school, with an emphasis to intentionally meet every student where they're at, not to judge, but to help build trust with truth as the foundation of every decision as they journey through their school years. As a mentor, we tend to be that voice of truth during hard times, knowing that each child has the power and DNA to become the person they have dreamed of becoming. I mostly enjoy, as an SRO, speaking to our youth on internet safety, cyberbullying, even stranger danger with the younger elementary students. I often tell our students that knowledge is power and encourage them to know and gain an understanding of our laws. It's inspiring to meet students from the RCSD who have a desire to pursue careers in law enforcement. Unfortunately, there are times where students and families enter a season of crisis, either suffering from family issues at home, being bullied in school, or on social media. It is during these times as SROs provide help by giving wise counsel to both students and parents. Without this interaction, it's difficult for students to foster a better relationship with their school peers and police in the community. This is why I feel our role is so important. Thank you again for your time.
Thank you very much, Mike. Our next speaker is Maya Waller, and Maya is a student. Welcome, Maya.
Thank you. I'm Maya Waller, a student at World of Inquiry High School, and actually Mr. Santana is my SRO. So I just wanted to say that this is not a personal statement or it's not personal. It's more just how I feel in general. So from a student perspective, SROs make our schools feel less safe, not more. For many of us, cops are associated with trauma. We would feel safe in our schools with more social emotional help. The money spent on SROs can still go to school safety, but for it to be student safety, it needs to be in the form of social workers, counselors, and an expansion of restorative practices. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Maya. We appreciate student voice. Our next speaker is Iman Abid. Iman, welcome. Iman, can you come on video, please? Hi.
Oh, no. All right.
I can
Can
hear
you
you
hear me
now. Yes, you have
Okay,
3 minutes. Thank you.
Great. My name is Iman Abid, and I am a community member, and I work as a regional director for the ACLU. So to address the $60 billion deficit, the district proposed several cuts, including eliminating hundreds of educator positions, nearly 4% of the RCSD workforce, making cuts to special education teachers, social workers, and counselors, all of whom provide important and critical services to district children. This proposal does not match the needs of Rochester's children. According to the Civil Rights Data Collection, almost no district students were referred to law enforcement in recent years, and suspension rates continue to drop. This begs the question, why are SROs even needed in Rochester schools? Research demonstrates that school administrators, teachers, social workers, and counselors can effectively respond to normative child and adolescent behavior. School counselors, school social workers, and psychologists are well equipped to build trusting relationships with students, and unlike SROs, have the necessary professional training to provide supportive services to students. The consequences for these funding decisions fall on the most vulnerable students. Historically marginalized students, such as students of color, often have to attend schools with fewer resources and supports, and teachers are often not equipped to deal with the special needs of children with disabilities. When there are no other support staff to address behavioral problems, some teachers request help from law enforcement. This results in an increased criminalization of school children. And in an ACLU report, schools with police reported 3.5 times as many arrests as schools without police. As a result, students with disabilities and students of color are frequently sent into the criminal justice system. Additionally, data continues to show police in schools do not make students safer. To the contrary, the over-reliance on police to address normative child and adolescent behavior in schools disproportionately impacts Black and Latino students, fueling the school-to-prison pipeline and making schools less safe. Schools should be places where students feel nurtured and supported, not treated like criminals. SROs are simply not an adequate substitution for social workers and other trained mental health professionals. This proposed budget is a misuse of funding and should be instead used to enhance educational programming, not saving jobs, like by restoring all special education teachers, social workers, and counselor positions. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Our next speaker is Andrea Vasquez Jimenez. Welcome, Andrea. You have 3 minutes. Andrea?
Organizer based out of Toronto, Canada. I'm the co-director of the Latinx Afro
I'm sorry, Andrea. It seems that we're having some technical issues. We are going to allow our next speaker to come on into the room, and that is Owen Shepherd, and hopefully we can get Andrea back with us. Owen, are you with us? Welcome. You have 3 minutes. We're going to try and work to get Andrea back on. Thank you.
Okay, greetings. My name is Owen Shepherd, and I've worked in the security industry for over 30 years. I'd like to briefly share with you a snapshot of my experience. From 1995 to 2001, I worked as a school sentry at the Rochester City School District. I served as the director of security for the Penfield Central School District from 2001 to 2007, and returned to the Rochester City School District, working as a school safety officer from 2007 to 2012. From 1998 to 2010, I conducted safety and security related training for the RCSD. In addition to this experience, I've also completed the 40-hour basic school resource officer course conducted by the National Association of School Resource Officers. As you consider the renewal of the SRO agreement with the Rochester Police Department, please ask yourself 2 questions. Are the services being offered worth $1.56 million in the face of a forecasted financial crisis? I realize $1.56 million may seem like a drop in the bucket against a $40 or $50 million deficit, but every full bucket begins with a drop. Based on my experience, and this goes back some years, I'll tell you that you can receive many of those same services for free as a part of what RPD considers community policing. Are there alternatives to having our Rochester police officers in city schools? Again, based on my experience, I will tell you that one alternative to having police in school buildings is already within the school safety and security department. Given the necessary authority, properly selected and trained school safety officers can act as school resource officers. I believe these questions are pertinent to this conversation, and I hope as you ask yourselves these questions, you will consider my responses to them and find them valuable in your decision-making process. Thank you for allowing me to have input on the issue, and thank you for your service to the community.
Thank you very much. Have a good evening. Our next speaker is Amon Scanlon. Welcome, Amon. You have 3 minutes.
Thank you. Good evening, commissioners. My name is Amon Scanlon, Education Policy Manager at the Children's Agenda. The Children's Agenda is a member of the Community Task Force on School Climate, and we have worked in partnership with RCSD for 6 years now to improve school climate in this district. There have been some great successes in that work, with a significant decrease in suspensions these past 6 years, thanks to progressive discipline policies and community building strategies like restorative practices. The Children's Agenda and the Community Task Force recommend that the RCSD Board of Education end the permanent presence of armed police officers within school buildings. As the first Breaking the School to Prison Pipeline report from November 2014 points out, 75% of all arrests made on school grounds were for non-violent offenses at that time, many of them petty larceny, trespassing, and disorderly conduct. We know of incidents of students as young as 7 years old being led out of school in handcuffs in Rochester. Just this past week, a 10-year-old was put in handcuffs during a routine traffic stop on Route 104. This is an example of how the presence of armed police may unintentionally lead to the criminalization of youth for normal adolescent behavior, especially children of color. From a research perspective, there is no consensus on if the presence of police in schools make them safer, and in fact, some studies suggest the exact opposite, with higher rates of violent incidents. One recent study published in the Journal of Policy Analysis and Management by Dr. Emily K. Weisburst from UCLA showed that grants to hire more police officers in Texas high schools and middle schools were associated with a 6% higher rate of disciplinary incidents, a 2.5% decrease in graduation rates, and a 4.5% decrease in college enrollment compared to students at other schools. Keeping students safe and helping them thrive academically are top priorities for every school district. There is no clear evidence the presence of armed police officers on school grounds contribute to either of these goals, and some evidence suggests the opposite. In a time of deep financial stress, you should eliminate this program in its entirety and spend the $1.5 million for that contract on mental health professionals such as social workers who will be needed now more than ever during this time of social isolation, economic disruption, and health threats posed by the pandemic. Please eliminate armed police officers from schools. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Eamon. Our next speaker is Stephanie Marie Vega. Vargas, Stephanie, welcome. You have 3 minutes.
Thank you. My name is Stephanie Vargas. I am the community organizer for Citizen Action of New York, but I'm also a community member and I attended public schools. I had the privilege of attending schools that did not have cops in them, but I've also seen what over-policing of our youth, particularly over-policing of our Black and Brown youth, has done. It has caused unmitigated trauma, it has committed harm, and it has perpetuated the school to prison pipeline, which is something that we must fight tooth and nail against. I was really excited when I saw that the school board worked to eliminate 5 SROs from the school. Obviously, a lot of community members, our goal is to divest from all of them. It really shows what we choose to prioritize as a society and what community policing and what community safety and what school climate looks like. We need to invest in services that get to the root causes of trauma in our students. Police officers are there to dole out punishment. They are not there to address systemic and root cause issues in our children. And our children should never be in a place where they are policed. It is giving them a clear message early on, is that they are criminals, is that they are to be policed, and that they can face harm at any time. What our students need are investments in social emotional supports. They need counselors. They need things in place that can help them, not things that make them feel unsafe and make them feel criminalized. I urge the school board to work towards getting rid of all SROs in schools. And I know some are very in line with that thinking, and I appreciate how hard you work. For those who are on the fence, or for those who fear getting rid or eliminating of all SROs, I would love to have a conversation with you. I would love for you to speak to our youth to see what their experiences have been in schools that have police officers. It's not about an individual cop. It's about a systemic issue. It's about an institution that has perpetuated harm against Black and Brown students. This is something that we need to get rid of and out of our schools. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much, Stephanie. Our next speaker is Shirley Thompson. Shirley, welcome. You have 3 minutes.
Okay, there I am. Thank you for taking these remarks from the community tonight, Beatrice. My question is, as has been the case with so many other people, why have armed officers in the schools? If they aren't intended to prevent students from bringing guns into school, which the metal detectors are supposed to do, then why are they there? You've heard students and adults alike talk about the injurious psychological effect this can have on the students. And I agree completely. I agree with the people who say we need more counselors. And I am, especially tonight, promoting restorative practices. If the public or if board members aren't aware of what restorative practices entail, I really encourage you to take the training because the experience can be transformative. It allows you to connect in a different way with someone with whom you're having a conflict. It enables you to get in touch with what it is you're even feeling that might prompt a conflict. And so instead of spending $1.5 million on officers, I would suggest that all staff, all adults that come in contact with our children, they undergo training, not optional training, but everybody undergo the restorative practice training. And then the school district monitor that it's being used, because it's not enough just to have people go through the training, check off the box, and then put the training on the shelf. So I suggest that the money be redirected to restorative practice training for everyone in the school district, and that it be monitored, and that even before you do that, you check what the impact has already been. You've heard some of the statistics. So that's really all I want to say tonight. The decision is with the Board of Ed, but I hope that you're listening closely to the concerns that have been expressed by people tonight, and that you'll do what is best for our children. I'm looking at my notes. I think that's all. I just want to reiterate, I suggest board members go through the training. You'd be pleasantly surprised at what it could do to your relationships. Thanks very much for your time.
Thank you very much, Shirley. We're going to try again with Andrea Vasquez Jimenez. Andrea, welcome again. Okay, we are having a lot of technical difficulties with Andrea, so I'm going to welcome Jim Thompson in. Hi, Jim. I see you, but I can't hear you. Can you unmute yourself?
Hi, can you hear me now?
I can hear you now.
Okay.
So, hi everyone again.
Oh, hold on, Jim. Andrea, can you hear me? Okay, Jim, go ahead. Thank you very much.
Okay. Well, thank you for allowing us to have this opportunity to talk with the board. I'm looking at my clock to see when 2 minutes is up. Although I haven't been in the schools a lot for the past few years, all our kids went to city schools. And everybody knows that there are some issues about race that occur. There are predominantly people of color in the city schools. And one of the things that I read about when I was reading the legislation was presenting, or the whatever it's called now, it's already happening, I guess, was that the officers want to present a positive role model of a law enforcement officer and also change youth perception of law enforcement officers. Well, this is one, it needs to happen, true, but on the other hand, it's not ready to happen yet. We still have to teach people what to do when police come to their car, you know? So we need to take this slowly. And one of the things that it talks about is they want to create a safe environment that's free of harm, intimidation, bullying, and weapons. And yet you've got police officers coming in here with weapons. We know that's their backup for settling disputes. I know that there are areas where it's not clear whether something is a criminal thing or it's just a disciplinary kind of a thing. But the first, as far as the purpose of the SROs, the first thing it's listed is to address crimes, disorder problems, gangs, and drug activities in our elementary and secondary schools. I don't think kids need to have people walking around with guns in our secondary schools. There's $1.56 some million being invested in this program. What would happen to the culture of RCSD if we used all that in restorative practices? That's my question. We have to really take a leap here. There aren't that many I know my time is probably up. So just that's all I want to say. Please turn the money and use it for something good. Take a chance. Really believe in our children. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Jim. Our next speaker is Kwame Danko Hanson. Kwame, if I can see you on video.
Hello, good evening. Can you see me?
Yes, I can. Thank you very much. You have 3 minutes.
All right, thank you. My name is Kwame Danko Hanson, and I am an assistant principal at the World of Inquiry School. I don't disagree with the speakers this evening who speak about the investment of school counselors and social workers. But I want to speak in support of the school resource officer programs in our local schools and advocate to keep SROs at School 58 and all schools who currently have this invaluable resource. Schools are a microcosm and a reflection of our greater community. Many a time, challenges that are experienced in greater community enter through the doors of the school building. The staff that I've worked with over the years have proven themselves to be loving, caring, competent, loyal professionals, and most, if not all, extend themselves well beyond the call of duty in addressing the varied needs and challenges that our young scholars and families face. But even with all our skills, training, and experience, at times we come across situations that are beyond our purview and expertise. And at those times, I'm grateful to have had the opportunity to work with the members of the Rochester Police Department who serve as school resource officers. SROs whom I've worked with over the years, like the educators, have come to view children as their own. For the past 4 years, I've worked with Officer Michael Santana as the SRO at School 58. Officer Santana has been more of an educator and counselor with an expertise in the area of law and law enforcement. He is the officer friendly in our building. He provides comfort to elementary students who might have been having a bad day and need a friendly face to sit with or talk to. He can be found in the classroom answering questions about emergency preparedness and what to do when you find yourself in a bad or difficult situation. He helps to investigate social media concerns, which quite often create acrimony among segments of our student body. Students often seek him out to provide information because they know and trust him. At School 58, all members of our school community are referred to as crew, and our SRO is no exception. Officer Santana uses his knowledge and experience working with youth in a restorative approach, ensuring there's accountability while also providing counsel and support to families. Relationships matter to him. The welfare of our youth matter to him. Safety of our community matters to him. And he serves as but one example of members of the RPD who serve as a resource in our schools. SROs educate our youth, provide a vital resource, and keep our schools safe. Please keep all schools safe by keeping the SRO program in the RCSD. I provide this statement on behalf of our crew at the World of Inquiry School number 58. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Kwame. Our next speaker is Brian Cromartie. Brian, welcome. You have 3 minutes. Welcome. You have 3 minutes. Thank you very much, Kwame. Our next speaker is Brian Cromartie. Brian, welcome. You have 3 minutes.
Okay. Good evening, everyone. I'm in support of SROs.
Welcome.
Yeah. Can you hear me? Can you hear me?
Yes, please go ahead.
All right. I'm in support of SROs. It has been my experience working with SROs like Moses Robinson or Keith Booker, and currently right now, Officer Graham, that they care about kids first. That's the first thing. They don't like people are saying, like they go in and they causing trauma with the kids. Quite frankly, the kids are already coming in the schools with trauma. A lot of people who don't work in the schools, they say, okay, it's gonna cost them $1.5 million. But what happens if something happened in school and a child gets murdered in the school or a child gets severely hurt? Then what's gonna happen with that situation? SROs, they prevent a lot of things that we don't know about at first, but with intel, then they'll let us know, then we can handle the situation that much quicker. They also go and do workshops around sexual harassment, around bullying, around restorative practices. They're in the building not to be bullies, not to be a person that someone has to fear. They build relationships with students as well as staff, as well as the administration of the schools. And then we provide plans for building operations, how to maneuver when things happen in schools, and then the SROs are there to support us. I have had nothing but good relationship with SROs. I think they're benefit for our schools, and removing them, it would cause a lot of issues around safety and security. And speaking of that, people talking about having SROs, well, you know, like, you know, and I know we having issues with the police department historically, but the first thing the kid come in the building, they got to come into a scanner. So we know that that right there is causing trauma for kids when they first come in the building. So to blame that on the police officers is just totally wrong. So I'm in support of SROs, and I think that if we remove SROs, it's going to be a bad situation for our district. Thank you, and everybody be safe.
Thank you very much, Bryant. President White, we had one more speaker. She was having technical issues, and I believe she is coming in from Toronto, Canada. So I was hoping that she would come back and we'd give her the opportunity to speak, and she's back on. So we're going to try one more time. Andrea, you are our last speaker. You have 3 minutes. I really hope this goes through because I know you're having some technical issues. So welcome. Thank you.
So much. Yeah, so my name is Andrea Vasquez. I'm a community organizer and co-director with LAN. We were able to push for the successful removal of the SRO program at the largest school board in Canada, the Toronto District School Board. From the Caring and Safe Schools annual report of 2018 to 2019, and the SRO removed the landscape, we saw a 24% less suspensions and also 53% less expulsions. What we know is that this is a systems issue. It's not an isolated issue. The same school to prison pipeline entrenchment that's happening in Rochester is happening here in other school boards as well. What we know is that this is a public health issue. This is a human rights issue, and this is a legal obligation. It is not just
I'm so sorry, Andrea, but we are not connecting with you. I don't know if you can hear me. Probably not.
If she has written comments, could she send those? Okay.
Yes, we'll make sure to do that.
Thank you.
We tried in earnest.
Of all forms of
and unfortunately, it will happen. We lost Andrea. I will ask that she submit her her comments in writing. We have posted all written comments on our webpage. They are also on board docs. President White, this concludes the speaker's portion of our public hearing this evening, and I turn it over to you.
Can't hear you, man.
Oops, I'm not muted. Can you hear me? Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay. I want to thank our clerk for doing a much better job at reading names than I have ever done. And when we go back live, which I know will happen one day very soon, I think we will continue this practice of you reading names, because you never mangle them the way that I do. You're always so gracious at thanking people for their comments. But I want to thank those folks that took the time to make those very thoughtful comments on behalf of the board. We appreciate those comments. They will be utilized for us making a decision with respect to that plan that is before the board. Please continue to offer your insights, whether it relates to public safety, school resource officers, budget, financial issues. Please continue to offer those comments to the board, because we are enriched and our decision-making process is made more thoughtful by your input. Having said all that, I next will ask for a motion to adjourn this public hearing, and that will end our business for today. Is there a motion?
So moved. Willa
Thank you,
Powell.
Commissioner Powell. Is there a second? I know there's a second out there somewhere.
Seconded.
Thank you, Commissioner Malloy. All those in favor of adjourning this public hearing and saying a healthy and sound thank you to folks who contributed, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. And I assume there's no nays. So this public hearing is now adjourned. Everybody have a good holiday weekend. God bless. Stay safe.
Bye, everyone.